and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Doof, and this is my brother, Matt Doof.
And we're the Doof Brothers.
Hey, Matt, we're the Super Doof Brothers.
Glug, 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 glug.
The funny thing is, nobody probably watched this movie in preparation for this episode but you and I. So we're the only ones that got that.
Well, that's
and
a
you know
shame.
What? I'm okay with it.
Yeah, me too.
This week on the show, we're doing another one of our patron-produced episodes. Folks that pledge to us at the Doof Warrior level or above on Patreon, that's patreon.com/doofmedia, get to select a movie or a short story for us to do a show on. This week, our patron Julie asked us to head back to our childhood and discuss the Super Mario Brothers movie. That's right, that one. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and this is going to be great. I think when Julie proposed this, it wasn't clear that not only that you and I had seen this, but that it was a beloved childhood movie.
Yes.
So,
yeah, but a beloved childhood movie that I have not revisited in a long time. So it was nice to go back and figure out what 7-year-old me was thinking. I guess I was 8. I guess I was 8 when this movie came out.
Sounds right.
Yeah. And after that, we're going to talk about the state of the world, the state of the entertainment industry and life of living with the COVID-19 virus, because some crazy shit's happening around the world right now, Matt, and it's affecting the type of media that we consume, for sure.
Yeah, we'll try not to get too doom and gloom about it and keep it to entertainment stuff, but
we'll try.
It's going to matter, so I think it's good to pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. So that's our show this week. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it, Matt. I can't wait to talk about Super Mario Brothers.
They're brothers. They're plumbers.
Oh no! Mario! Luigi!
They're on the trail of a kidnapped princess and a mystical meteorite.
It's incredible!
That gives anyone who possesses it the power to rule the universe.
Get me the rock! Come and get it, lizard breath!
Hey, Matt. What is Super Mario Brothers?
Well, two Brooklyn plumbers, Mario and Luigi, must travel to another dimension to rescue a princess from the evil dictator King Koopa and stop him from taking over the world.
Yeah, that is that. Super Mario Brothers is a 1993 movie directed by the husband and wife team of Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel. It has 3 writers on it, Parker Bennett, Terry Runt, and Ed Solomon. And it stars, of course, Bob Hoskins as Mario, John Leguizamo as Luigi Mario, and Dennis Hopper as President Cooper. I wrote Bob Hoskins' name down twice here, and it really threw me for a loop there. It's Dennis Hopper as President Koopa. Or is he a king in this? I think he's just a president, but he's a king.
That's funny because I don't even remember. I think he is. I think he's like King President Koopa. I mean, he took over from the king.
Yeah, but there are a lot of signs up that say re-elect Koopa.
That's true.
But he also kills anyone that speaks bad about him. So,
and there was a president who he deposed, or there was a king who he deposed.
Yeah.
It's all very complicated and politically labyrinthine in a way that is completely inappropriate for a Mario movie, which is just great.
So yeah, this is a live action adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers video game. Sort of. If you look on Wikipedia, it says the game that this was mostly taken from is the Super Nintendo game Super Mario World. I don't know what they mean by that.
No, it wasn't. That's nonsense. I think maybe the people who wrote the movie just had that one game to look at to get their ideas from, and therefore that's the one that it's most based on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the fact that it has a Yoshi, the Goomba people in this don't look like anything, but I guess they kind of almost look like the Goombas in that game.
I mean, yes,
Bowser's or Koopa's cousins are names of 2 of the Koopa children and.
Okay.
Fuck, Matt.
All right.
This is going to be a weird conversation. I don't know how to do this, but the first thing we have to start with is what is this movie?
Yes. How and how did this happen?
Yeah. and it's such a complex question that like I did some internet searching to try to figure out what happened here, and it really seems like what happened is, for some inexplicable reason that I'm sure everyone at Nintendo immensely regrets, they basically just gave this company like free reign to do whatever they want. They gave them the license, or they sold them the license rather, to make a Super Mario Brothers movie. And they just weren't involved in any of the process after that. They let them do whatever they wanted with it. And I think like we'll see after this, Nintendo becomes a company that like very, very closely guards their IP and doesn't do stuff like this again. And I wonder if this experience was because of it. Because yeah, they took these concepts, and by concepts, I really just mean names. They took the names of things and they just did whatever they wanted to do with them. This is a movie about alternate dimensions in which not humans, but the bipedal, two-limbed animals evolved from dinosaurs. I guess.
They look just like humans, though.
Yeah, they look exactly like humans, but they hatch from eggs. And which apparently, like, Catholic nuns are just really cool with. They just yeah, okay. Someone dropped this egg off at our church, and it hatched into a human, and fine.
I just wish there was like a documentary about the making of this movie, because the writing process sounds so fascinating. Like this is what it seems like happened. It seems like they just like played the game and had this list of like names and concepts like bob-ombs and the characters named Toad and Yoshi, who were, one of them's a dinosaur, one of them's kind of a weird thing, mushroom guy.
They gave him spiral hair, Matt, so it's fine. It's fine. They gave him this spiral haircut. That's Toad. That's right. Yeah. He plays music. There's spikes on everything. There's and then they're like, oh, there's mushrooms everywhere. How are we going to do that? Oh, let's just have there be, instead of these charming, colorful mushrooms everywhere that Mario jumps on, it's a creepy, disgusting fungus all over the entire city that used to be the king somehow. Yeah. Instead of just Mario like jumping normally, we're gonna give him these big metal boots.
Yeah, rocket jump boots.
Yeah, that are powered by the bullet bills. And so they just like throw these random things in here, and it's just like I think my favorite line in the whole movie is Dennis Hopper just saying Goomba.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the thing, is all of those things are in the movie for sure, but I'm pretty sure, I really don't remember a de-evolution chamber in the Super Mario Brothers games. I didn't play all of them, but I'm 99% sure there's no de-evolution chamber.
See, that's because you didn't find the hidden warp tunnel to the de-evolution level.
I guess. I mean, I did find all the flutes and everything, but...
No flutes in this movie. There's a harmonica.
There's a harmonica. I love it. Okay, so let's just for a second, I want to say that, like, if anything, this was more fun for me as an adult, because I like the idea that the one guy who's in prison with them, they de-evolve him, and then you realize that's Toad, quote unquote Toad.
That is Toad.
And then he keeps the harmonica on for the rest of the movie, and that's how you know that it's Toad.
Yes.
And I never noticed that when I was a kid. I genuinely had no idea that. I was like, oh, that's the same guy, and it's supposed to be Toad. I was just like, oh, I guess one of the Goombas is good for some reason. That was my mentality. And like so I was just noticing more stuff like this, where I'm like, okay, like it's actually like sort of functional storytelling. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is it's not a horrible movie. It's just so bizarre and like silly and random that you would never say it's a good movie either.
No. Well, and yeah, I mean, I had fun with it. I had a good time, but it's for the exact reasons that you're talking about. It's not because it's good. It's just random and seeing the little moments where they connected it to the game in stupid ways. Like, I am not the type of person that like loves the watching bad movies on purpose thing. Like, right. I don't like The Room. I'm not that. Wait, is that The Room? Yeah, that's the Tommy Wiseau movie. I don't get into that. Like, I have barely enough time to watch the movies I want to watch, let alone to watch something I know is bad. But there are movies out there that like are just so like the so bad it's good moniker, and I think this is one of those ones that just goes in the sweet spot for me, where it's just absurd and ridiculous, just to the right level of where I can have a good time with it, just at the silly nonsense they're doing, and how like as much as this movie is random and makes no sense, it's going full force into it. Like it just goes for it. It just goes for it in every way. Like every little weird thing that happens is just like, yeah, this is you just gonna have to deal with that now.
It's funny because it's actually very well paced and has a reasonably good economy of storytelling. Like it's not a bad. It's not that the script is good, but at least the movie keeps a good clip, so you're not bored. And then I think on top of that, like Hoskins and Leguizamo and Hopper are just hamming it up in the best way and keeping you amused with their just sort of exactly what it needs to be performances. It's very much of its era. I'll say that for it.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, because it does very much feel like a early 90s kids movie. And I think I read what they were trying to go for here was kind of like a silly but dark, like Ghostbusters-esque thing. And obviously they did not get that. Ghostbusters is a classic. It's a wonderful movie. They didn't get there. But there are bits of like the early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. Like it's very much a 90s kids movie of that type, where it's just a bunch of weird shit, a bunch of interesting special effects, and they really liked this alternate dimension stuff in kids movies. Like they really liked the bringing people from our world into these other worlds kids movies. I think kids just like that type of thing, and so I feel like kids movies growing up in the 90s did that a lot.
I think they did that in the Mortal Kombat video game movie adaptation too.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, there's definitely this thing that was going on in the 90s where it was like, well, we're gonna make a movie out of this kid's property, but we can't make it a kiddie movie, but we also can't make it rated R. So we're just gonna make it kind of like uncomfortably adult while putting in all of the elements from the movie that make it, from the game that make it distinctive. Like I think Mortal Kombat is a good example actually, because it's like, yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat doesn't really have a story.
No.
And Mario doesn't really have a story either. And so that enables them to really be pretty free with their storytelling, and then just make sure they shoehorn in Shang Tsung and Koopa and there you go. There's your Mortal Kombat movie. There's your Mario movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I kind of want to maybe spend some time here on what would a Mario movie be, because we do know that Nintendo is getting back into the Mario movie business. I think the animation studio Illumination that does the Minion movies is working on a Super Mario Brothers animated movie right now. What are the essential characteristics of a Mario movie? And I think on like paper, this gets there, which you have Mario, you have Luigi, you have Koopa, and you have Koopa stealing Daisy, and Mario has to go get her back. And that's like the basics, structure of a Mario story, because the games don't really have stories. Like, especially back in the early 90s, like they've tried to add more story elements to because games have just gotten more complicated generally. But the games, like, you just boot up the game and it's just go get the princess back. Right. And that's it. So like they took that idea and they were like, okay, but like, what if the meteor that killed the dinosaurs actually just transported them to another dimension?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And like, look, I think that like that 90s, like, kind of grungy, like, alternate Earth stuff is really interesting. It looks kind of like a Total Recall's version of Mars, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
It's just, I think it's really interesting and weird. Also, I think the Judge Dredd version of the future, totally. I think all have the same kind of aesthetic. I'm talking about the Stallone one, not the one that came out recently, Dredd, right, which is actually a great movie. But it's just like that kind of weird, like, future aesthetic where, like, on the one hand, you can tell this was definitely done on a soundstage. They're not outside at all. But on the other, it's just people getting really creative with the limitations they had. It's really weird. And I enjoyed, like, my time just looking around the set decorating in this movie and seeing all the stuff that's going on in the background. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, like they obviously put a lot of energy and effort into world building, because it's completely whole cloth, right? Like they, other than these particular proper nouns and concepts, of which there are a handful, they really went full bore with the like, okay, all right, alternate dimension. We have to stipulate that somehow the dinosaurs eventually evolve into human looking creatures. And go. What does this look like? Okay, they've got these cars that have metal things that stick up and connect to like a electrical grid above the road.
Well, Matt. The dinosaurs can't use fossil fuels because they were the fossils. You get it? Do you get it?
I mean, that doesn't make sense actually, because they're. Yeah, but anyway,
Matt, this movie doesn't make sense. Stop making science.
I mean, that's the funny thing is like the idea that Mario is a plumber is itself something that just came out of nowhere, like with the game. Like it was like I don't remember exactly. I didn't look this up beforehand, but it was like a Japanese game called like Mr. Jumpman or something. And then they like reskinned it for America, and we're like, his name is Mario, and he's a plumber.
Yeah.
What does that have to do anything? Well, there's pipes. He goes down through pipes, so he's a plumber.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And so like, why does he jump on ambulatory mushrooms? No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Yeah.
So this movie had the task of making Mario make sense, which it doesn't. And then they, like you said, went the step further and tried to bring in all of the like, I don't want to say gritty realism because I feel like that term is overused, but that is kind of what this is.
Yeah, I think it is overused, but it's absolutely what this is. Like, it's fun to make fun of this movie, and we're going to keep doing it for the next 30 minutes. But the task at hand is like, imagine you and me sitting down and being like, all right, we got to write a live action Mario movie. What? How? Like, what would we do? What would we do? Yeah, like, we got to make them plumbers. We'll make them down on their luck plumbers. We'll play with that in weird ways, which is like, like when Koopa first like we don't have the stone. Who has the stone? The plumbers. And then Dennis Hopper turns to his assistant and is like, sound the plumber alarm. And you're just like, what?
What?
I mean, they clearly know what plumbers are in this world, but like it's this recurring beat over and over again that they're like, oh, the plumbers. And I was like, what does Dinosaur World have against plumbing?
Well, so I think when I was a kid, that just went right in one ear and out the other. Sure. And then when I watched it this time, I immediately like tried to figure out what was intended by that. And I was like, well, the dimensional gateway is down in this like subterranean area. Maybe plumbers are just constantly stumbling into their dimension by going down into basements nearby, and this is a recurring problem. And this is just the last in a long line of invasive plumbers who are maybe all named Mario for all I know.
They could be,
because apparently it's a family name.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know their family, right? So
yeah,
that's where they could have disappeared to. We'll never know.
I think the sequel would have been like finding out that Mario's dad, Mario, was the original Mario. Like, call it the Hat of Mario or something.
Sure. That's when he gets the hat, because this hat didn't count as the hat.
No, this doesn't have an M on it.
No. Well, speaking of that part, Matt, like, so they're in Koopa's tower, which is one of the Twin Tower buildings, which is kind of weird in retrospect, but they're in one of those buildings and they've turned on the cold air because they're plumbers and that's how they win. And then they're like, how do we get up to the top floor? And then Mario's like, I got a great idea. And they go to the lockers and they put on their costumes.
Yep, they're red and green costumes.
Which are like, the red and green costumes. So it's like 50 minutes into the movie before the movie gifts us with them looking like we expected them to look like in the games, which is also a thing I think 90s movies based on properties did, right? Where they held the final moment where they're finally the character you've been waiting for them to see the whole time. Like they hold that toward the end, the third act of the movie. I feel like adaptations and properties did that all the time back in the 90s.
Definitely.
But I don't get it. Like and then they just get on the elevator. Like what, like why did they switch clothes? Like what, like besides for us the audience to see them in those outfits, what did switching clothes do? It didn't, like they're wearing plumber outfits. It didn't hide them from anyone.
Because at first you're like, oh, it's a disguise. They're disguising themselves as like official Koopa plumbers. But then as soon as the Goombas get on the elevator, they hide.
Yeah, they just hide.
It's almost like they forgot why they did that. And
Yes.
I mean, I'm not even exaggerating that that's possible. That they just the script writers forgot why they put on the costumes. And then they were like, well, how are they going to get out of this situation? Oh, the dancing thing, because we need to use the dancing thing later. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I loved the whole dancing scene, though, because it's so silly. And so I was just going around, like, looking up different clips and stuff. And I found the dancing scene on YouTube. And my favorite comment on the video is, just jump on them. It's so ridiculous. And so I agree with you on the writing. Like, it feels like they wrote themselves into corners and then like just scrambled to write themselves out of them constantly, because there's this whole subplot with Koopa's right-hand woman. I forget her name.
Yeah.
But at one point she gets the stone back and then tries to go to Koopa and say, I want to be with you. I want to do this together. He turns her down. Then she runs off to put the stone in the thing. And then Koopa's like, arrest her. And they arrest her and they take the stone back. And then like immediately after that, she gets it back and then goes back to do the thing she was going to do in the first place.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, why'd you do that whole part in the middle? Just have her go to the thing. It's just like, it's one of those things where like you see they're like, oh, but we needed this person to have it. So we needed that she has it, but we need to get it back to our characters before she goes and dies. So like it's like problem solving in your script writing, like when it's too late to do a whole rewrite, like when you just have to kind of patch it together from the start. A lot of this movie feels like it's just kind of patched together.
Absolutely seems like a script written by three people where someone wrote the first script and then someone revised it, but like didn't quite do it right. And then the third person maybe fixed some things that were still outstanding, but made other problems exist. And then they had to start filming because that's how movies work.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of ADR in this movie too. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did.
ADR, for those who don't know, stands for automated dialogue replacement. It's basically, in the best case, it's when like the take on set, the audio recording wasn't clear, and so you need to go back and re-record your dialogue. It's also used to patch over scenes where like you're having to patch your movie together from bits and pieces, and you realize, oh, we need to change the scene to do this, but the person doesn't actually say a line that moves us on to the next scene, so we'll just have him say it with his back turned and just ADR it, or we'll just use a long shot, which is far enough away from his face where maybe you won't catch that his lips aren't moving, but they're not.
Yeah. No, there's at least one moment where Koopa is clearly facing the camera. It's not even a long shot, and he says something, and his mouth does not move.
Yeah.
At least once.
I also think every time the Mario Brothers do the handshake and do the look, I think that's ADR'd every single time. Like, I think they changed their mind about what they wanted that sound to be, and they redid it. Because definitely when they do it in the elevator, when they've got the Mario costume on for the first time, John Leguizamo's mouth does not move at all. So I don't know what happened there. It's just, it seems like a mess of a production. And if you go and read about it, Bob Hoskins calls this the worst movie he's ever made, the most miserable time he's ever had on set. He hates this movie. And if he said if he could go back in time and undo it, he would. Dennis Hopper says the same thing. John Leguizamo was the most political of the three when he was like, I appreciate that people, got to see it. It's like, it's so political, it's funny to me that all these people hate it so much, because I would have guessed that they had a good time. Like, Dennis Hopper seems to be hamming it up to the point where I would have guessed he was enjoying his time on set, but it doesn't seem like he was.
Right. I mean, they know the lines are ridiculous, but they're giving it their all. I mean, Bob Hoskins is just as funny as he is in anything when he's trying to be funny.
Him. God, I love him.
I love like certain of these random sequences that have nothing to do with Mario at all. Like when they're arrested and the cops are going to take their pictures, and the cameras have like laser sights on them, and the two Mario brothers are like panicking and struggling as if they're going to be executed, and then it takes their picture and you see the pictures and it's just their terrified faces. Like, that's got nothing to do with Mario. It's just a completely original comedy beat, and it's hilarious. I loved it.
I liked what Dennis Hopper is like. They made him a germaphobe, and that is hilarious. Like, why did they do that? Like, why did oh well, he's gonna be a germaphobe, and he's disgusted by and that scene where he's sitting in the mud, and he's like, you know what I love the most about mud? It's clean and dirty at the same time.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know.
And like you said, he delivers it with full conviction.
Yeah, well, and the first time we meet him, he's like sticking his hand in hot wax or something. And then he lifts his hands up and his hands are covered in wax. And it never like explains why he's doing any of these things.
I at least this time I was like, okay, well, I think he's not really necessarily a germaphobe. I think this has more to do with the fact that the king is fungus and that he's murdered the king, and he's trying to like it's specifically about that.
Yeah, I mean, like he is trying. I guess his whole thing is like evolution, right? Like we are we have the most evolved form of life, and we like, and he's trying to make everything clean and perfect and evolved, and everything around him is pushing against that. Yeah. It's like I guess one of the ideas is that because people in this world evolved from dinosaurs, evolved from lizards, quote unquote. They are more ruthless. This world is more violent. Like the Mario and Luigi, the first thing that happens is an old lady like sticks them up for their money. The first 5 minutes they're in the world, and someone else like robs her after she robbed them, and so it's just like this idea that this world is more chaotic, more violent, less civilized, and Koopa seems to think like he can make it more civilized. But so wrong.
It's funny because it's definitely portrayed as being terrible and dystopian, but also this is another thing that was 90s, which people, I mean, I don't know how to convey this other than say like watch RoboCop, watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original first one, watch this movie. There's this pervasive like. Maybe even RoboCop 2 is a better example because not of a good movie, but of what I'm talking about, of this idea of like everything is terrible. The crime rate is through the roof. The cities are covered in roving bands of teenagers wearing denim vests with mohawks, with spiked mohawks and chains, and shirts with band names on them. And they're gonna carjack you. Like this was when I was like 10. I think that's what I thought cities were like, because that's how all movies portray them as being.
Yeah, well, I mean, like 80s New York City was way different from like today's New York City, and obviously it was not like this, but it was crime in New York City in the 80s was up, and so I think if you're a human being living on this planet looking at what that city was in the 80s and then extrapolating that out a few years into the future, I think it makes sense that that's the version you're going to expect to see. So I get why they went there, but yeah, no, like you're totally right that like. I remember having this image of city life as this horrible, horrible place. And it's not clear in this movie that like, I don't know how much, I guess we're led to believe that 20 years has gone by between the turning of the king into mushroom, like fungus. And so like, was this world like a peaceful paradise, and in 20 years it's turned into this? And it's not clear because like the one thing we see is that the entire planet is barren except for this one like couple city blocks.
And
so like I remain unconvinced as to like the happiness in this kingdom before Koopa seized control. I don't know. Like I don't think enough can happen in 2 decades. Like certainly he made it worse, right? He definitely made it worse and less clean, and the fungus didn't help with that. But like I don't know what we're supposed to think about any of this.
I don't think they thought it through.
yes, that is the truth. Yeah. Is that nobody working on this movie has talked about it as long as we have talked about it in this 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, or like, I mean, I've worked on sort of collaborative projects that went on for a long time, and the problem is that like you start with a seed and you go in a direction and then you're like, no, I don't like that, and you backtrack and then you start again and then you go forward a bit more and then you partially backtrack and then like you end up with the final product where it has, and unless you're extremely diligent, which it's hard to do, you have elements that are fossils of previous cycles that no longer make any sense, but you're like, but I really like that. And then you try to find a way to shoehorn it in. And like, this is what that feels like. This whole movie feels like a bunch of people spitballing ideas and then being like, yeah, totally. Toad's going to be a lizard man who got de-evolved into a giant guy in a maroon vest thing. And we're gonna have Koopa's 2 cousins, and they're gonna play a major role. And then like the whole subplot of them getting smarter just doesn't go anywhere. And then like at the end of the movie, they're like, actually, we were with your father all along, princess. I forgot about that.
No, you weren't.
So ridiculous. They're like actively trying to help Koopa the whole time, and then they're like,
they're the ones that took her.
Yeah.
They're the ones that kidnapped her. Like, and they were stupid. That was the whole thing. Like, they were not actively like trying to supplant President Koopa. They were idiots.
There's like one scene earlier where they're like looking at each other knowingly, and you're like, is this supposed to foreshadow that? I don't understand what this look doesn't mean anything to me at all.
I don't know.
I don't usually like to point out like plot holes, but it is kind of just very funny to me that they have a machine that can make people smarter, and they don't just use that on everyone. Or Koopa doesn't use that on himself.
Why did it take them failing him 6 times for him to use this machine to make them smarter?
Yeah.
Like,
this is a fantastic innovation.
They kidnapped 6 women. And our understanding of the orders Koopa gave them to find the princess on our planet was 2 arms and a head. And so they're just taking women, any women. It seems like, I don't know, make them smarter. Make everyone smarter.
I mean, obviously, the fact that their orders were so crappy is proof that like this is not supposed to be taken seriously. But
well, yes,
I do very much enjoy like including the element of a machine that makes people smarter and then using it in the dumbest possible way. Yeah, just
it's all good. It's all wonderful. I mean, just like the de-evolution ray in the first place is just. Phenomenal.
Yes. Well, so and like there's certain things where I actually kind of appreciate it. Like I thought the climax was like genuinely clever, where I was like, this is great. We've worked up to the point of Mario actually jumping around, and then they turn Koopa into an actual dinosaur monster.
Yeah.
And blow him up with a bomb or whatever. And you're like,
yeah.
Well, okay, not in that order exactly, but it's like, okay, you got there. You got to what I recognize as something from the Mario game.
Sure.
And you had to do this elaborate Rube Goldberg machine to get there. And I don't know why you made any of these choices, but like but by that point, I mean, unless you've already turned off the movie and discussed, then you're definitely having a fun time.
Sure. I think the Babam is one of my favorite parts of the movie, just because of how much they emphasize everyone's like terrified reaction to it. It's so good. Like even Koopa is like, Babam.
Yeah.
And just seeing Dennis Hopper have to go like with his hair slicked back to look like scales or whatever. Just have to go, yeah. Babam.
Yeah. And another almost certainly 80-yard line because you don't actually see his mouth during that.
Yeah. Probably because Hopper couldn't say Babam right. Like Babam? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing, is this movie's so silly and fun. I mean, the one thing I wanted to talk to you about, Matt, and the most surprising thing that I realized with my analytical mind watching it again, is that in the Mario movie, Mario is not the protagonist. He's not the protagonist of this movie. Luigi is the protagonist of this movie. Luigi is the one that incites all the action. He's the one that's trying to get the girl. The reason Mario goes to save Daisy is not because he cares about her, but because his younger brother cares about her, and he's along for the ride. That is most of what he doesn't even find out that his girlfriend is captured until, like, except by accident. It's just like, oh, you hadn't heard? Yeah, she's here too. And so he goes and saves her and all the other women that were captured as well. But this is the story of Luigi Mario falling in love with Princess Daisy.
Yeah, Daisy is really a bigger character than Mario. Like, the only sequence that Mario has sort of on his own is like you said, when he goes off to save his girlfriend, which is just kind of a little side quest. And I think obviously Leguizamo is the handsome male lead of the movie.
Yeah.
And Hoskins is like
the wise old mentor. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The wise old mentor. That's exactly what he is.
They made Mario the wise old mentor in the Mario movie.
I know.
Like, I mean, I think this is before, like, the memification of Luigi as kind of a joke. Like, I think this is pre all that. But in that, like, with that framing, it becomes all the more funny that some script writers looked at the Mario universe and said, that Luigi guy, we got to make this all about him.
Yeah. We've never had a character like Luigi. I don't even. I mean, it's funny to me that they don't give Luigi a mustache, even though the character of Luigi clearly has a mustache, and it's like it's like the thing about Mario and Luigi is that they have mustaches. Am I wrong? Does he not? No, he definitely does, right?
He does. Yeah, they both have mustaches.
Yeah, it's like 100%. That's like the characteristic feature of the Mario brothers. And they're like, yeah, but we can't give Leguizamo a mustache. It wouldn't work.
He's got to look pretty.
He's got
to look pretty.
Pretty and young and youthful and handsome give him when he wears the hat, he's got to wear the hat backwards, even though Luigi also never wears, like, Luigi is not the younger, hipper Mario brother, but they had to make it work that way.
I mean, originally it was literally just a palette swap. Like, they were exactly the same. It was only later that Mario became like the squatty, more stout one, and Luigi became the lankier one that jumps higher. But I can't remember when that was, because I know Super Mario 2 was out, which isn't actually a Mario game, but and I knew Super Mario 3 was out, and I think they started like differentiate, like Super Mario 2 differentiated their movesets, where Luigi in that game was the one that had the floatier jump. But I think that's just like because Super Mario 2 was a game that they turned into a Mario game. So I think that, like, they didn't intend to do that. It just kind of happened that way. So I think in Super Mario World, the game that this movie is based off of, I think they were just a palette swap in that too. So I wonder, I can't say this with any kind of certainty, but I wonder if part of the Mario is the shorter, squattier one and Luigi is the taller, thinner one comes from this movie.
Comes from just Hoskins and Leguizamo's physical appearance. That's hilarious. Yes. I have no idea. I don't remember.
I don't think so, because there was the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Okay.
Like, there's a bunch of other, like, that was an 80s thing, I think.
Yeah. The TV show, it's funny because I think I was vaguely aware that a TV show existed, but I only saw some episodes actually when my kids just happened to find them on YouTube, because because they like watching playthroughs, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was weird to me, because I was like, okay, I missed out on this. But and they do. It's nothing like this movie, obviously. But it does have its own. I'm looking at the picture right now. I mean, they both have mustaches in this, at least.
Yeah, but Luigi is definitely the taller, lankier one, even in this. So that was established before this movie. They just slotted Leguizamo into it. Like, they tried to give Daisy the correct dress, like, kind of like in their own way, right?
Yeah.
Like, they put her in a pink dress. It's not exactly the same dress. They made a Toad, but
yeah,
I just can't get over that. Like, I can't get over that he's the harmonica one. That's so fucking funny to me.
I know. I mean, Toad to me is by far the weirdest element in the whole thing because he's supposed to be like a cute mushroom man, a cute, whimsical mushroom man with a mushroom head, and they make him this terrifying, hulking, scaly, sharp-toothed lizard monster who makes like unsettling noises even when he's being adorable. Just imagine being in the room with that costume.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, can we talk? Let's talk about the costuming in general for a bit, because it is crazy. I mean, like every choice here, like is trying to do multiple things, but like the Goombas in general is like, all right, so what do you think about when you think about Goomba? Giant body, tiny little scary head, right? No, what?
No. What are you talking about?
And yet they did it, and it's like, they build. It's like a hulking body. Like I don't know who played these things in the movie. Like who was the person in the coat? Like I don't know how it was done, but they seem like 7 feet tall, with these tiny little heads, and these like thick, heavy boots. They're creepy as hell, and that's Toad.
Yeah, the only thing that's even close to being like a connection is that these are people that they use the de-evolution machine on, presumably making them more like fungus, but they're still obviously reptiles. So I just don't. I want to be in the room where they settled on that, where they were like, we have to do it this way. They have to be terrifying monster reptile things with little beady-eyed heads.
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
It's such a weird choice. But then like we have Yoshi, who
just a dinosaur.
They took this adorable little green dinosaur and said, okay, just a dinosaur, but we're still gonna do his tongue, and it's just gonna be kind of nightmare inducing.
Yeah,
because he has this scary, like, I don't know, like it doesn't look like the cute little Yoshi tongue. It's like
a frog tongue. It's like a real physical, sticky, disgusting tongue. And then he gets stabbed at some point. We gotta have Yoshi get stabbed at some point in this movie.
Oh, definitely get Yoshi stabbed. Yeah. First of all, Yoshi is chained up.
Yeah.
And then stabbed, and then we're gonna go to the king is also like, not only, Matt, did they make the fungus like a thing, but then like the central point of the fungus is this disgusting like bulb that hangs down from the ceiling.
It's constantly dripping liquid.
I mean, and I will say, I will give the movie its credit that it uses that in interesting ways. Like I think like the Mario, Luigi, I'd like you to meet my father, and then it cuts to the thing just when like a little bit of mucus just like drips off of it onto the floor. Like it's a really good cut. Like there are parts of this movie that are very well made, and I like a whole bunch. But yeah, I don't know, like just the choice to do that. Not only to make him the fungus, like I get like how like it's the mushroom thing, I get it, but not in that kind of way is just so gross. It's so gross.
Yeah, no.
And then at the end of the movie, he appears again. I'm not sure how. Just it's Koopa dies, and then it's reversed.
Then he appears. Yeah, it's reversed somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he just falls out of. He falls. Like if he was all the fungus, and then his human body just falls out of it, and then he's just like, oh, I liked those plumbers.
Yeah.
Dude, you were fungus.
Yeah. No,
for
he was
20 years.
He was fine. He was sentient the whole time, obviously. I mean, he was trying to help them. So
yeah, he was. He helped them the whole time. He caught the car. He caught Mario.
But it almost sounds like we're joking, but I can't see any other answer other than they literally did say, all right, we're gonna bring this long list of Mario things, but everything's got to be gross and disturbing, because nothing else explains it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, there is no other explanation for that. Like even the mushroom, like this movie brings a mushroom into it, but it's not like if I'm telling you I'm gonna make a Mario movie and I'm at one point he's gonna have a mushroom, what's he gonna do? Well, he's gonna eat it and he's gonna become Super Mario.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
going to be red with white spots.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's just a little toadstool, and he's actually gonna use it to reflect a de-evolution ray back at human Koopa to turn him into lizard Koopa. Okay.
Yeah, it's a power up.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. There was no fire flower. I was surprised by that. I couldn't remember when I was watching this time if they did a fire flower, and I'm like, how am I gonna work this in?
They have the flamethrowers that shoot fireballs, though.
That's true. That is a fire flower. That is what it is. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Which a flamethrower is something that really works in Mario.
Well, sometimes it's just a flamethrower, and sometimes it was shooting a ball of fire.
Yeah,
and I wasn't sure about that.
Hey, remember when Toad gets hit by several shots of a flamethrower and he's screaming?
Oh yeah, when he's on fire.
He's on fire, and Daisy runs and leaves him to die. Actually, no, she comes back.
She comes back with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
She's nice enough to do that, and then she's just like, I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
And we don't know if he is until later when he plays his harmonica and makes all the Goombas dance.
Yeah, which again, great moment of cinema.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Matt, I don't think we've been very analytical this episode. I think we've just like talked about scenes and then laughed to each other. I don't know if that makes a good show or not, but this is such like a weird, I'm so glad we got to watch it, and I'm so glad we got to have this conversation, but it is so like different from what we normally do. Yeah.
I mean, I think we analyzed it to the point that we possibly can, where we're talking about what the movie, how this came about.
Yeah. And wow. I mean, here's what I'll say, Matt. I felt a little sad at the end of this movie when Daisy busts in the door looking like a fucking badass.
Yeah.
And is like, Mario, Luigi, I need your help. I wanted to see that next movie. Like, as much as like the common complaint is like the kidnapping of the princess is like the original damsel in distress moment that has like become the staple of especially early video games, with video games in general. And the movie kind of carried that forward. I mean, Daisy does stuff in this movie, but mostly she's there to be like rescued and saved and stuff.
Yeah.
But then they ended the movie on this moment. It's like, actually, she's not going to be Princess Daisy anymore. She's going to be fucking badass Daisy, like grunge Daisy. And I wanted to see that version. I wanted to see that.
Yeah. Daisy Sarah Connor.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess there's only one final remark I wanted to make, which is like, I loved this movie when I was a kid. Like me and my brother, me and Daniel would play not Mario, like not the game. We would play this movie. Like we would get like the rocket boots. We thought it would be awesome to have these boots specifically. And we would like pretend we were jumping around with these boots and like shooting de-evolution guns at each other. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know why this movie was so appealing specifically, because there's obviously so many other movies, but it's just so weird that it sticks with you.
Well, I think here's my thesis on this, and I don't. This is all conjecture, so I have no idea. But first of all, the rocket boots are really fucking cool, and it's a really creative way to do the jumping in a live action movie. Like, there's no way they could actually have Mario and Luigi like jump, right? Like, it's just like in a live action movie. You can't do that. That would what would that be? What would that be? Them just jumping really high? How would that work?
Right. I mean, if there was magic, maybe.
Sure. So they did these boots, and that's how they kind of did the jumping. But I also think the thing that people don't realize about kids in a lot of the stuff is like movies where the main characters are kids are never as cool to kids as movies where the main characters are adults. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cool adult. And so the things I played were the cool adults things. Like, that's why I like Ghostbusters so much, because I wanted to be Pete Venkman or Winston. Like, and I think you probably wanted to be these Mario brothers, because they're these adults that have jump boots and do cool things. I don't know how kids' brains works. I don't have any, but I think that's true. I think like sometimes we think kids movie means the characters are all children, and when you're playing pretend, like you want to be Indiana Jones. You don't want to be Short Round.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and everybody wants to be Luke Skywalker. No kid wanted to be Anakin, like kid Anakin Skywalker.
Right, exactly.
You imagine like that's the whole thing is it's wish fulfillment. It's imagining yourself to be the hero with the shining sword. It's you want to be strong and badass, and you fantasize about that. You don't fantasize about being a kid. You are a kid. It sucks.
Yeah, that's boring.
Yeah.
I have no power. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that is part of it. But, you know, I don't remember loving this movie. Like, I don't remember playing the Super Mario Brothers movie, but I watched this movie a lot as a kid. I certainly did. And I think it's because it was one of those things where it was equally reminiscent of a thing I liked, which is the video game, weird as shit. And young Scott was really into weird shit. Like, I mean, that's what led me down my obsession of Stephen King, as I was into really weird, gross looking stuff. Like body horror is something I got really into as a teenager. And like, so maybe Fungus Man was like, yeah, I'm into Fungus Man, and weird Goomba people, and so like all that just really interested me in like a ew, but I like it kind of way. You know what I mean?
I mean, this is I remember that from being a kid. It's definitely something I see with my kids. Is a fascination with like the gross or the macabre. I distinctly remember like as an actual concrete memory, like me and all of my friends would like draw, and we would draw like whatever, and then suddenly one of them was like drawing like like everything had like scars and wounds and like barbed wire, and then suddenly we were all doing that. It was everything had to be gross and covered in barbed wire, and it was just like that's the something to do with child psychology of like, oh, now we all have to be badass and edgy. And I think it is kind of that like you're approaching the transgressions through these like edgy kind of very slightly transgressive pieces of art like this one.
Yeah, there we go.
We figured it out.
At the end of the day, Super Mario Brothers movie, slightly transgressive, edgy piece of art.
Yes, which is why it appeals to the child psyche. So in a sense, it's genius. It's a work of genius.
It is. There we go. Bob Hoskins, you were wrong about your own movie.
Yep.
So there you go. Don't regret it. Embrace it. Let's get more of this shit. Kids need to see more of this shit. That's the problem with the generation today. Not enough Super Mario Brothers. Not enough Raphael screaming "damn" at the top of his lungs in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And then being comatose in a bathtub.
Yeah. Not enough of that.
Yeah.
Not enough stuff that fucks with your mind, because I still, when I close my eyes, Matt, I still see Raphael getting the shit kicked out of him so bad that he almost dies and gets thrown through a plate glass window.
Oh my God, me too. I can see it perfectly like it was yesterday.
The 90s, man. It was a fucking wild time.
Yeah.
And that is Super Mario Brothers. Good talk. Thank you so much, Julie, for having us revisit our past. I think this has been a very therapeutic conversation for me. I think I've figured out a young version of myself much more than I ever would have had I not revisited this.
I know. I feel like I had a powerful reintegration experience with the young Matt. Doof.
So let's go from there and let's talk about the coronavirus and what it's doing to our world.
Yes, I feel like today is like the last day where it's about to happen, and tomorrow is the day where everything just goes to complete shit. At least for me, where I am.
In the time that we've been recording, my wife has told me that Dallas has just put a ban on all gatherings above 500 people.
And my kid's school was canceled. I received a text while we were talking.
Yeah, for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
Also, today was the day that the movie, like last week, South by Southwest was canceled, which was huge news. This week, E3, the biggest gaming convention in the world, got canceled. All sporting events are now canceled. The Major League Baseball is being delayed. The NBA is suspended. The NHL is suspended. The NCAA March Madness tournament is canceled this year. And then movies started moving. So earlier in the month, James Bond got pushed to November. Then today, Fast and the Furious 9 got pushed to next year. It's not coming out till April 2021, which is crazy. A Quiet Place 2 movie got just removed from the schedule. They don't even have a new release date for it. Disney also announced that Mulan, the New Mutants, and another movie, Antlers, that were all supposed to come out in March and April, have all been just removed from their schedule. They don't even have new dates for them yet. So, like, outdoor, like, leaving your home events are just, for the rest of this month, are just not going to happen. Like, I don't think there's going to be a new movie in theaters for the rest of this month. It's over. And for as far as I can see, like, I've gotten, I don't know if you've been checking your email, but like every morning I wake up and I have like 12 like emails from businesses like, here's how we're responding to COVID-19. I've been getting those like for the last couple days, and all the movie theaters I signed up as a member of or whatever have been sending those out to me and have like, we're cleaning every single seat after every single showing. All of our people are wearing gloves, like but still no one's going to go to the movies.
Yeah. I think I've got a few emails like that. I think the main thing I've been following is the school emails, where they went from like just sort of a like, we're paying attention to this stance, to a, we're totally going to disinfect this school over spring break while the kids aren't here, which is whatever, fine, to now we're canceling. And like, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I, like, it's weird. I mean, just to be a bit like personal, like, I've known this was coming for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, and to have it actually finally happen is still manages to be sobering and upsetting. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough month. I know people don't necessarily want to hear all this serious shit on their entertainment podcast, but I don't know.
It's the biggest thing happening in the world, and it is affecting every single thing. So how could it not affect? It does not affect us because you and I are sitting in separate rooms, thousands of miles away from each other, talking into microphones. So we will carry on with that. But every other aspect of our lives are changing. I don't know if I'm going to work tomorrow. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the announcement to tell me whether I'm going in or not. But I mean, the thing that I really want to just like entertainment wise, there has been this kind of push and pull and war, although war is not really right because one side is just getting curb stomped, but the theater industry, like going to see movies in a theater, has been fighting this losing battle against home entertainment and television, especially in the prevalence of streaming services now. And I wonder, like, at the end of this thing, like, a lot of people are going to die. It's going to be terrible. And it's going to just, the economy, this might push us into a recession and all that stuff. And that's awful. But at the end of this, in the entertainment industry, is this going to be the big push that really, and I'm not saying like theaters are going to cease to exist or anything, but I think distributors have been looking at distributing in movie theaters versus just distributing to streaming services for a long time. Mm-hmm. And Netflix has been pushing, like, they go to film festivals and they buy all these things, and they maybe will run it in the theater for a week, if at all. But they buy it and then they drop it on their service like a week later. And I'm wondering if this is going to be a big enough event where they're canceling all these releases where that's going to happen. Like, The New Mutants, Matt, has been a movie that has been delayed like 12 times, and it was finally going to come out. It was a Fox movie, and then Disney bought Fox, and I was convinced it was dead. It did like extensive reshoots. All the kids in it are now like 40 years old, and they were kids when it was filmed because it's such an old movie now. I would not be surprised if at this point Disney looks at this movie and says, just put it on Hulu.
Yeah.
Just put it on Hulu. Like, it's not worth it to go through this whole rigmarole now. And I don't think a movie like Mulan that will happen with, because that's a big event movie. But all these other things, I do really wonder if this is what a lot of the companies are finally going to go, let's just put the stuff on streaming services. And then you see how it goes. You see how successful that is. And you start really, crunching the numbers and going, well, maybe we should just do it this way all the time now.
Yeah, either all the time or just radically changing kind of the mix of, like, instead of most things go to theaters and fewer things go to streaming, flip that ratio, and only send things to the theaters if you really expect them to make $2 billion. Because clearly they're going to keep making these Marvel movies. Like they're not going to leave all that money sitting on the table. But some of these more marginal movies, I can imagine them just kind of saying, we're just going to rethink how we finance these things. I don't know. It's complicated, obviously, because a huge amount of the money that they make is obviously from ticket sales. And when you sell a movie to the streaming service, like the value proposition there is a little murky. Obviously, they've done it before. I mean, it's not, it's a thing that's happened a few times now. But I think to your point, especially if people are just staying in for extended periods of time and reluctant to go out. I mean, we don't know how long this thing is going to last. Like we're probably going to be strongly encouraged to stay in our homes at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. How long that lasts, I don't know how long that could be. I mean, I don't want it to be months, but it could be months.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me from the film industry standpoint, like Disney is looking at this and they've canceled everything in all their big releases in March and April. But like, for example, the next Marvel movie coming out is the Black Widow movie. That is coming out May 1st. And for now, that's still in that release date. They have not moved that. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone's looking at March, definitely, April, maybe, and then we'll see from there. Mm-hmm. And it's a weird place to be in. I mean, this is something that I think most people alive have never experienced something quite like this before, and it's weird and scary, and it's gonna bring about radical change, on the back end of it, no matter what. Like things are going to change, and I think I saw an article the other day talking about is this gonna finally be the thing that makes like telecommuting switch over faster than it was happening already? And it might, because if you're a company and you're paying for all this office space and suddenly circumstances outside your control force you to have everyone work from home, and then you check back productivity a month later and hey, it hasn't moved that much, then suddenly in your head you're like, why am I paying for all this office space? Yeah. Like I could save money that way. And so like, yeah, I mean, if it is capable of changing the way people work, then what else is it going to change?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of, I mean, it's a bit weird to frame it this way, but I'm very curious to see what the world looks like after this. And I guess I have this suspicion that very little will change and people will try to make things go back to normal as quickly as possible. But on the other hand, if people look at their balance sheet and say, why am I paying for this office space? Like you said, that could be a big shift in things. I mean, I've been a proponent of working from home for a long time. My job, like I think a lot of jobs, maybe you need to go into work 2 or 3 days a week to be, to interact with people, but I don't think you need to go into the office 5 days a week. I don't know why. I mean, obviously some people do, but for an office job like mine, I absolutely don't think so. And it would be better for the environment if we made this the new norm.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like getting people out of their cars for 20 miles a day certainly would help with that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I know everyone's just kind of in this. You're absolutely right that we happen to be recording this on a night that like might be the last. Let's wait and see what's going to go down night before everything starts. Like today was a big day of things starting to move. And who the hell knows what I'm going to wake up to tomorrow. I doubt I'm going to be going to work next week. It seems like that's the way it's going.
Yeah. I mean, my work hasn't canceled, but with my kids' school canceled, I
basically don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I hope everyone is doing okay out there. I am sick right now, which is a weird feeling. I don't think it is coronavirus. I do not have any of those symptoms. I don't have a fever. But it is weird being sick right now because you're like,
yeah,
like in the back of your head, it's like, is it? No, maybe I don't know. It's just a weird time. So.
I know. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I don't know how long we want to talk about this, but my oldest, she's 7. And she wants to be a doctor. She has for quite a while now, and so she's extremely interested in this and. It's really fascinating to talk to her about it because, like, she's capable of a very mature understanding of things. But like, we were watching this show on YouTube about the Wuhan situation. And I like at a certain point, I kind of like was like, okay, we're done, because they were like showing just like dead people in the streets.
Oh God.
And I was like, I don't think she needs to know about this yet. Like this is horrifying. And the idea that this could, like, she's sharp enough to know that this is the implications of this. Let me put it that way. So yeah, I don't know. It was very disturbing. This has been a very disturbing day overall. Sorry to dwell on these things, but we're human. We have we get bothered too.
Yeah, no, and I think everyone's feeling that. So I think you're just capturing the general mood of the planet right now.
Yeah.
I think we have officially moved away from the feeling of people are overreacting to this,
Yeah.
right? I think we finally gotten to a point where everyone's just kind of like, oh no, we're just reacting.
Yeah.
So crazy. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk about. I just so many of the movie cancellations happened today that I felt like we needed to at least bring it up in some form. So that's it. We'll still be trucking along on our end, talking into microphones, disinfecting our microphones afterwards, maybe. But,
Yeah. Good idea.
yeah. All right. Well, that is all we have for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on the Super Mario Brothers movie or on COVID-19 and how it is changing your lives and the entertainment industry as a whole, you can talk to us about it. We want to hear from you. Reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account at doofmedia.
Yeah, and if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And you can find this and all of our shows over at our website, doofmedia.com. That's where you can find Kingslingers. I haven't talked about that show in a bit, Matt. That's our show where we are journeying through the Dark Tower series, chapter at a time. And we have just completed book 2, The Drawing of the Three. So, hey, everyone's going to kind of be hanging out in their homes more than normal. It's a great time to open up some books and then maybe listen along on a podcast, because you don't need to go outside to do that thing. So if you are a little bit behind on the Dark Tower or just haven't started it yet, it's a great time. I'm really enjoying that series. I think, Matt, you're really enjoying the book. So come join us. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, or you can do the audiobook while you work from home. Because
yeah, there you go.
That's a good thing to do.
Your boss can't get mad at you for listening on headphones
Exactly.
when you're in your house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Every review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
Yes, and if you want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You can head on over to patreon.com and pledge at the $20 level, just like Julie did, and get a movie of your choice. Julie made us watch the Super Mario Brothers movie, and we were so thankful to her for it. So do you have a 90s kids movie that you want us to watch?
Yeah, I haven't watched The Goonies in a while.
Oh, gosh. That's 80s, right? Is it?
I don't even know.
I don't know. All right, guys, we will see you all next week when we are talking about, what are we talking about next week? Oh, next week we are talking about the movie Primer. It is the first in our Council of Doof series, Matt. This is where we are giving those that continue to donate at the $20 level above a voice in deciding some of the other things we talk about. All the people at that level or above get together once a month and they vote on another thing they want us to talk about. And this month they selected Primer. So we're going to talk about that movie and find out if the council approves of Primer.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Join us next week for that, and stay safe out there, everyone. See you all next week.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.